Welcome to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And now it's starting to become a reoccurring occurrence, if that even makes sense, because the
special
person,
guest every week.
It's a special guest every week. No, you're media credentialed. You're basically living in studio. And that, of course, back for the third week in a row is our good friend, our Places Insider, Krista Stucchio of @FoodPick. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Exactly. See, my shoulders are moving because I'm just so excited that you are back.
Always. And we're talking food, so.
Yeah, what better?
Nothing better.
You know, and there'll be a lot of people at home that'll say, I kind of just watched the food segment and not watch anybody else.
Totally.
And, you know, it kind of offends me, but it should not offend Josh because I always say nobody likes him. Different story for different time. Right? Exactly. Anyway, so Krista, the last 2 weeks you kind of spoke about places that you've been interested in going in. That was last week.
Yeah.
Locally.
The area too. Yep.
Right, exactly. And then a week before you spoke about places that you have been locally. But we're going to give that Places Insider title a run for your money today. And we are going to talk about places far and away. Maybe not that far and away.
Far and away.
Exactly. And some of the cuisine you had. And I think you're going to go down to the city of brotherly love at first, from what I understand.
Yes, the great city of Philadelphia. You know, they haven't had very much luck in sports recently.
Yeah.
And I know that my friends back home, so I actually grew up outside of Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
So I have a lot of friends that are there. My sister lives there, so I visit quite often.
Nice.
And there have been a few spots where that I visited, so I figured I would talk about that with you today.
I absolutely love it. And I was just in Philly about a month ago, actually the day before they lost in the Super Bowl. And as a Dallas Cowboy fan, I love that.
Oh,
boy. And I thought they were going to burn the city to the ground, either if they won or lost.
You just never know.
You just never know is right. And before we get into some of your top places down there, I just want to tell you about a place that I stumbled into.
Please.
It was in the Fishtown area of Philadelphia.
That's where my sister lives.
Oh, what a great, it reminds me kind of Hoboken, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, and there was this cute little Italian restaurant on the corner called Il Ghittone.
Okay.
And, you know, it was a BYOB place, which is fine. I was with
Taylor,
my buddy
are
from
you
work.
listening? That's
Taylor,
my sister.
are you listening? And the people spoke Italian to me.
Oh.
And I have to tell you, the food out of this world.
Wow.
Out of this world.
Okay.
So Taylor Stucchio, Stucchio's her last name, I'm assuming? Yeah. Get over there. And Il Ghittone.
What's the drink situation over there?
BYOB.
Amazing. We love that. We love a BYO.
And I couldn't believe it. We literally had 3 appetizers, 2 entrees, and a dessert, and the bill was $94.
Wow.
I mean, you know.
Sign me up.
Fresh. Exactly. All right. Enough about me. Let's talk about
I love it.
some of the places you like there.
Okay. So I have been dying to go to Middle Child Clubhouse.
We tried to get in there. And it was also in Fishtown.
Okay.
And it was full that night, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we actually went there on New Year's Eve.
Wow, that's cool.
So it was a really fun experience. It was just a small group of us. You know, we're sitting there eating it's like fancy stuff, but then casual stuff. Because you can get your fries and you get like amazing cheesburger, classic cheeseburger with the works, you know, just like, perfect.
Love it.
And then there's fancy burrata. This was incredible. Latkes with caviar.
Latkes with caviar.
But the latke wasn't like a normal looking latke. It was like this square chunk. I don't know. It was incredible. Could have just eaten those all night, honestly.
Okay.
And it's just very funky in there. They have a really fun personality on social media. They've got pool tables in there. So, you know, we did our little, we had our dinner, we had our drinks, and then we stuck around, we played around a pool, and then went home and watched the ball drop, and it was a great night. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why it took her 3 months to come back on the Pulse. She was, reliving her Philadelphia days.
Yeah.
Any place else?
Yeah. So actually, Middle Child Clubhouse also has Middle Child, which is just their sandwiches, which is honestly what caught my eye first. So again, you got to look at their Instagram. These sandwiches are thick. They are.
THICC.
Yes. Exactly. So I've been eyeing this, and I did not know how to choose my sandwich. Their breakfast menu is a little bit smaller, so I started with that. Corned beef, egg and cheese.
What?
Add a hash brown. Flash the photo on screen.
She's telling you how to do your job, Jim.
Yes. This was just This was a separate time I was in Philadelphia. So it wasn't
I like that.
the New Year's Eve weekend. It was my sister's birthday weekend.
How funny.
So, I was hungover. I was in need of a really large sandwich, and it did the trick. Their lunch menu looks incredible. So that'll be my next move next time I'm there.
All right, yeah. And do you visit often, or?
I do. And my sister and I were very close. So she'll come here, I'll go there, and we're both very into food.
The question is, will she ever come on set? Challenge.
She's a lot more shy than I am.
Oh, come on.
But we might, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe she just needs a cocktail
We've never
first.
had like a sister duo, you know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh, how funny would that be?
Oh, I think it'll be great. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Tangent. Let's go to the next.
We're moving on to the Continental. So we went for my sister's birthday dinner. Had some amazing things there. First of all, it's just like really cool in there. They have this giant light fixture. You take a few steps down and there's like just really swanky looking area. They have on the top floor, you can sit in these little swings.
Wow.
At the dinner table. Yeah, it's cute, but it was only for like small tables. So we had a little crew. But the food that we had, the most epic thing that my sister was pretty much dying over is the lobster mac and cheese, but it's not what you think. They used orzo.
Wow.
So right.
Which is not pasta or rice, it's orzo.
Yeah. I had a friend who was like, I don't know if I really like that because like I don't want like lobster rice. But it was so
To me, you
good.
can put lobster on anything.
Oh yeah.
Right?
So
Yeah.
highly recommend cheesesteak egg rolls. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
You're in Philly.
I mean,
There's
yeah.
cheesesteak everything.
But it's so funny because everybody, thinks cheesesteaks and with Philly, but there's so much good cuisine down there. And I'm so glad that you're bringing up some of these restaurants.
Yeah. This one's been around for a while. I just never made it over there, so I'm very excited about that.
Exactly.
That I finally got to go.
So talk to me about a place in Philly, which, Eagle and Flyer fans will tell you that, is like every street corner, that you can get a really good drink, and possibly maybe some good bar food. Ooh, did I throw this up?
Yeah, you did. You did. I was going to talk about a bar.
Go for it.
I'm relating it back to Hoboken. This is why. So, have you heard of a little place called Wicked Wolf?
Of course.
They have a Wicked Wolf in Philly now.
No way.
And it took the place.
Same owners.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have like literally Wicked Wolf Hoboken like in the Philadelphia location. Like they have like pictures. Yeah. It's a really big space. There's an upstairs. And it took the place of Porta.
Okay.
There used to be a Porta there. And
that's probably
again,
huge.
I'm going back to my sister's birthday weekend.
I know. Taylor, you're on.
Yeah.
I mean, you're coming on.
DJ, confetti cannons. Like it was a vibe.
So that kind of answered my question because I'm sure the food's pretty good there.
Yeah.
I know the Wicked Wolf at Hoboken.
Yeah, if you're a Wicked Wolf
food.
fan, make your way over to Philly. Check out the second location.
Amen. And you know what, folks? Krista can tell you, I did the drive in an hour and 20 minutes, but it's an hour, 90 miles down the New Jersey Turnpike.
Yep.
And you're in Philly having a good time.
I know. It's pretty crazy how close it is, right?
Exactly. All right, Taylor. You're invited.
She's going to hate me.
The question is, will you take my spot or your sister's spot? No, I'm kidding. I
would die at either of those options.
Maybe one of each. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Krista Stucchio of @foodpick, thank you so much for coming on.
I love when you use my full name like that.
Come on. I have to give the paisan.
Get it through
credit.
the people's heads.
Because Daria is now peace. Instead of Delucia,
I love it, but it just rolled off the tongue.
It's just right.
Too. I know. Exactly. It's going to just stick with me.
We hope to see you on a future show.
All right. I'll be back.
Thanks, Krista. All right, folks. We will be right back. Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Pulse with Peter B. Folks, don't forget to go on our Facebook and our Instagram pages by searching The Pulse with Peter B. and like and follow us on each of those platforms. We're constantly updating those pages with previews of each week's segments and cool stories. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our email address at thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com.
Welcome back. I'm your host with the most, so much better than that bum Biancamano, and I'm so glad to be joined by my friends and Hoboken's pal, Cheryl Fallick, advocate and leader of the Hoboken Fair Housing Alliance?
Association.
And there's been a lot going on. We've had Ron Simoncini from, generally speaking, the opposite side of the rent control aisle. And so we wanted to have you on to talk about what's going on in City Hall, and all the shenanigans. So how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, and thank you for having me. And yes, I would agree. We have some shenanigans, but it's Hoboken, so what's new?
Oh, yeah. Well, every level of government, you're going to have shenanigans. So, so I know that there's been some controversy with the rent control rules and efforts to change them. Could you talk about that a little bit for the viewers out there?
Sure. Well, the city ran into some issues with regard to some rulings that happened at the rent board, and I would say perhaps some behavioral issues that were happening at the rent board. And they felt the need to amend our ordinance, which, okay, sometimes ordinances need to be amended, but you probably shouldn't do it without input from people who have lived experience, knowledge, that can help you create the best law possible under the circumstances. So our rent control history is a little bit of a quagmire with a lot of twists and turns. There's a lot to unpack and a lot to deal with. And generally, I feel that they didn't want to deal with it. They just wanted to take a hammer to it and say, here we go. And it's caused some problems bigger than they realize for both landlords and tenants. Obviously, I'm concerned about the problems caused for the tenants. Mm-hmm. So,
well, to every hammer, all problems look like a nail.
That is true.
So,
yeah.
And I feel like, whatever one's perspective is on the issue, whether, they lean for or against or up or down, it doesn't really matter. Our city hall our Ball administration in general has a tendency to try to cram things down people's throats without giving them a chance, without having the public, particularly the public such as yourself that's involved and stays abreast of what's going on, a chance to digest, look at, and provide, basically a backup pair of eyes that can say, hey, maybe you missed something here. Maybe you missed something there. Let's discuss this. Let's work this out. We all want, or allegedly, they all want an equitable outcome. So why not have more seats at the fire, so to speak, so people can contribute to the pot.
Exactly.
That was a lot of analogies that I just
but
used.
It's so very true. And the Hoboken Fair Housing Association historically has always said you need to get input from the tenants and the landlords because those who are more knowledgeable may be able to point out unintended consequences before they happen. So perhaps in your final version of this ordinance, you have addressed as much of that as you possibly can. And that's kind of what's happened. There are clearly unintended consequences that will happen, and they will be harmful to landlords, but extensively also to tenants. And knowing that and seeing that, Ron Simoncini and I, and we are absolutely ideologically at odds, sat down and tried to work through some of the things that were so obviously problematic. And we are trying to get the majority of the city council to perhaps address those issues that we saw that can become bigger problems later. I don't know if they will. We're fingers are crossed.
Well, I mean, hopefully they don't, continue to, as they often do, kick the can down the road. That is the tendency of politicians. But I mean, if they're, if the thing that they miss can bring two people such as yourselves together to try to fix things for the common good and make compromises for everybody's benefit, fingers crossed is the exception where they don't kick it down the road. But stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Hudson River Care and Counseling. Hello, I'm Dr. Pam Pater-Ennis, the CEO and founder of Hudson River Care and Counseling with over 30 years of clinical social work experience and therapy. We are a progressive counseling and coaching practice with a diverse team that brings a holistic approach to clients. We offer support both in person and through digital platforms such as telehealth. Consider us a safe haven that you can trust with care for your mental health needs. Visit our website to set up a consultation today.
Welcome back. I'm Josh Sotomayor Einstein, joined by my good friends and Hoboken tenant advocate Cheryl Fallick. And what we were talking about before reminded me, in terms of City Hall and the Ball administration just shoving, things down people's throats and not getting the public involved, of what's happening with the Union Dry Dock and New York Waterway. And it was, so many people in town supported the eminent domain, the taking of that land from New York Waterway, and whether that's good or bad, full disclosure, I was against it. But regardless of that, they're now being told by Bala, without any public input, that we're renting the land back to New York Waterway for at least 5 years. And so we paid $18 million, essentially, I think, corporate socialism, corporate handout, to rent their land back to them for a pittance. Basically, I think $5,000 for the first 3 years, like $5,000 a month, and then $9,000 a month for the next 2 years after that. But it's kind of another example of the city just doing things without telling people. And where's the investment in long-term residents? Where's the investment in small landlords that live in the community? But we don't have money for them. We can't support them. We can't build programs for them. But we can give a private corporation an $18 million handout.
Well, I would tend to agree. Some of the decisions we make, the New York Waterway situation, to me it's kind of mind-boggling. So they bought this land for $11.5 million. They wanted to move in there. We didn't want them because we wanted a park. My understanding is they were going to build a park. And what happened in the end is we bought the land, or buying the land, I'm not sure where it is, for $18.5 million. We're building the park, and they're still going to be there paying a low rent. It just seems like, how did this happen? I know a lot of people just want to connect the waterway, but sometimes you have to say, no, you can't do it. My concern is that New York Waterway, which I didn't personally have a problem with, but it's never leaving. We're just going to spend more and more money. And some of the money that we spend as a city into ensuring that our property values increase, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we put a lot of energy into that. And we don't put energy into making sure that we're protecting our residents, particularly those of lower means. I mean, certainly the situation we're in with rent control shows that we didn't, because a lot of the problems happened because of the way the ordinance was administrated.
So you were on the rent leveling board. How, if you were given magical dictatorial powers, how would you fix the problems in the rent leveling office?
Well, first of all, the ordinance that was passed, I would make sure that to the greatest extent possible, it was clearer. Like, what we did is we took an ordinance that obviously had some issues with interpretation, and we broadened the interpretation. So now, instead of rent increases being transactional and paperwork being required to be filed, rent increases are permissible, and the rent leveling officer can decide whether she includes increases or not when paperwork hasn't been filed. So we've gone into a more expansive place. I would lock down the language just so that if there's a question, the person who's questioning what's being done, which would more likely be the tenants, they have a hook to hang their hat on when arguing their case. And we've kind of eliminated that. That was one of my issues, which, to his credit, Ron Simoncini supported. He believed laws should be clear and they should be followed. And there's always going to be interpretation. But I see holes in the way these things can be interpreted that you could drive a Mack truck through, and it worries me.
Well, I definitely hear what you're talking about. And I think I know everybody in Hoboken appreciates, you and Ron coming together to try to show, the people in City Hall that there can be a better way where we can reach across, chasms and ideological divides and work together. Obviously everyone has to compromise to do that, but to reach a common good. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for coming on the show. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.
Peter Biancamano back with you. Don't forget to watch us on cable access every Sunday and Monday at 9 a.m. Optimum Channel 18, Files Channel 46, and Comcast Channel 190. Also on Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m., you can watch our show on our YouTube channel, and you can also binge watch all of our old shows. Who doesn't want to keep watching The Pulse with Peter B? We'll see you there. Welcome back to The Pulse with Peter B. Peter Biancamano back in the host chair and back making it look so good because the person to my right is also back, and that is our sports insider, Mr. Joey Jarzynka. Welcome back, buddy.
Thank you, Peter, for having me back. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Last week we spoke about the Metropolitans, the New York Mets, and you were kind of getting through the segment thinking about when am I going to talk about my Yankees, and I made you wait a week, so you're back to discuss the Bronx Bombers, as everybody likes to say. So, Joey, now the Yankees obviously made it a little further than the Mets did last year, but I feel like Yankee fans are very, very spoiled, as you know. Do you think that was a productive season last year, or it's World Series or nothing with them?
Well, I mean, yeah, it was productive, but at the same time, though, when you go back about 6 years and you say to yourself, all right, the biggest kryptonite for the Yankees are the Houston Astros. And again, look what happened. They took down the Cleveland Guardians in the first round, and then in the divisional series.
Correct.
And then in the championship series, and they were swept by the Astros. So that was an easy out. Was that a productive season? No, it was a big failure, to be completely honest with you. And I think that when you look at some of the offseason moves this year, granted they did bring back Aaron Judge, they brought in Carlos Rodon as well. I don't really believe that there were a lot of moves made to really propel themselves from the 2022 season. I really don't.
But do you think that other teams in the American League got better?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I look at Toronto. I look at Toronto being one. Toronto continues to just, they continue to build around their outfield. They continue to build in their infield as well. The infield is getting older, more experienced as well. Also, their pitching is finally getting into rhythm as well. I just think generally, there are teams that are out there in the American League that are getting better. And again, I'll be honest with you, Houston is one of them. Look,
right.
they just got in Jose
Right.
Abreu too.
That's right.
There's a lot of pieces that they just simply are able to get, and the Yankees are just re-signing their guys.
Now let's talk about Aaron Boone.
Yeah.
Because, it seems like he's always on the hot seat.
Yeah.
But of course, Mr. Cashman is basically saying, no, we love him. We're going to keep him.
Vote of confidence.
Exactly. Yeah. They're so confident in their manager. This guy's like Teflon, but how long do you think he has to turn this around for them and to basically win a championship? Because that's what he needs to do, before they depart from him.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Peter. I believe that it's going to be as long as Hal Steinbrenner says, all right, Brian Cashman, you are the one that's going to be on the hot seat first. And we'll see how long that is, because for as long as Hal has been the general owner and the managing partner and everything like that ever since his father George passed, he has had the vote of confidence for Brian Cashman for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And then you look at the signing that Aaron Boone, or when he was manager or became manager. I think that when Brian Cashman feels a little bit on the hot seat, then maybe something will happen. But I think a lot of these players rally around their manager. Listen, there are so many times that Aaron Boone has come out and, you heard the saying savage, right?
Right,
because
absolutely.
of, certain things that he has come in and has done for his players. He's stuck up for them. He's been in that position so many times throughout his storied career that the players really love him. Granted, he's all about analytics. Things looked really good in the beginning of the season last year in 2022, and then eventually took a tumble. So I think he's, last year it was good, but again, it's the roster building that is so crucial. They love Aaron Boone. I don't think he goes anywhere for the foreseeable future.
For the foreseeable future. And do you think it's more like Brian Cashman saying, "Well, let the heat stay on him, so people don't look at me"?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of it is, again, it's the Bronx Bomber mentality that they continuously bring. Look, they re-signed Aaron Judge. They have Giancarlo Stanton as well. Right. And a lot of that is all home run guys, right? They have one of the shortest outfield porches in all of Major League Baseball, which a lot of people have, compared it to a minor league ballpark. Not the case, obviously. But again, they looked fantastic when you hit home runs. But then when you need a contact guy to come in like a DJ LeMahieu, he's either hurt or he can't get it done. So they need some more depth around that, and they really did not address that in the offseason.
Well, we do have to go to a quick commercial.
Yes, sir.
More Joey Jarzynka on the Bronx Bombers right after these messages. Welcome back to The Pulse, and we're back with, of course, our sports insider, Mr. Joey Jarzynka. Did you miss me during the commercial?
I did.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be back here with you.
Exactly. Well, we're happy to have you back, sir. Continuing our discussion about the Bronx Bombers, those New York Yankees. Let's talk about their bullpen.
Yeah, their bullpen has kind of taken form once again. Last year, Peter, in the summer, they lost Michael King to a stress fracture in his elbow. After that, the bullpen kind of went downhill. You saw the closer, Clay Holmes, did not look great towards the end. He was struggling. The Yankees had one of the worst Augusts in team history, in Major League history. It was really crazy to see when you start off so well. I think it was like 45-16, and then through the month of July and August, they barely broke 500, and they pretty much skidded into the playoffs, and that's kind of what happened. But now Michael King is back healthy. They brought in an old friend in Tommy Kahnle as well. We'll see what also goes on with Loizaga, with Ron Marinaccio, as well as the current closer in Clay Holmes. So a lot of good things to talk about.
I was going to say, so that's one of the areas where they've certainly got better in. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree, but also something I think that needs to be brought up here is also their rotation too, Peter. And I think when you look at Carlos Rodon too, he's looked absolutely fantastic since from his days in Chicago. He had a fantastic year a couple of years ago, and then in San Francisco he cashed in this year with the Yankees. But also keep in mind too, they lost Frankie Montas, who was their big pickup last trade deadline, right in July. And in the offseason, Peter, really tough. He had shoulder surgery that Aaron Boone is now saying that they'll be lucky if they get him back for this year. So that number 5 spot in the rotation is up for grabs. Look for Clark Schmidt to be this number 5 starter.
So I asked you about this with the New York Mets last week.
Yeah.
I said, what do we expect from the New York Yankees now in the 2023 season? I mean, I mentioned this at the beginning of the segment, which is like, fans are expecting a World Series or bust. I mean, you basically said that other teams got better than them this offseason. Can the Yankees get that World Series, or will it be another bust?
I think it's going to be another bust, I'll be honest with you. And I think that the Yankees have no choice but to bring in some of their youth. And I think you're going to have to see Anthony Volpe, Jason Dominguez. You're going to also have to see the two prized guys too, in Oswald Peraza and Oswaldo Cabrera as well. Those two guys are going to be vying for spots, whether it be left field at shortstop. The current roster and the current lineup right now, 1 through 9, in my opinion, is not great. They're going to have to insert that youth, and if they don't do that, because they're really intrigued of having Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Josh Donaldson and Aaron Hicks in the lineup, granted because of money, I don't expect anything different this year in 2023.
Interesting. So who do you expect to come out of the American League?
Well, I'm going to have to say I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Tampa Bay Rays as well. And I think what Tampa has done in the offseason, granted they did sign, their biggest contract to former Phillies pitcher Zach Eflin. It wasn't that big of a deal because we know how Tampa's kind of a bottom dweller in terms of spending. But they are rejuvenated. And also something that Kevin Cash, their manager, has said is that he feels that this depth is the deepest that he's had throughout his tenure in Tampa.
You heard it here first. Joey Jarzynka, go to Vegas. Well, you don't even have to go to Vegas anymore. Go on your apps, on your betting apps, and bet on the Tampa Bay Rays. Yep. Joey, thank you so much. We hope to see you on a future episode.
Absolutely, Peter. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Really appreciate it again. All right, folks. Join us next week for The Pulse on everything you need to know. I'm Peter Biancamano. I hope you have a great week, everybody.